This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendall of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. So today we are here to talk about Cheryl Strayed's book Wild, A Journey from Lost to Found. Oh, snap, same edition. This is the post-movie edition. So, and we're going to talk about the movie later because I watched it on Friday night. And Justin, was it literally last night that you watched the
Saturday?
Movie? Saturday, yes. Yeah. So we've been doing our last-minute research. I'm very impressed with you and me, but more with you because you're a brave volunteer still. All right, so welcome everybody who is watching on Facebook, and do hop in with your thoughts at any time. I'll be keeping an eye on them, so hop in with your ideas or questions or anything you want to mention about your experience with Cheryl Strayed's Wild. So Justin, your overall thoughts, let's start with that. Did you like this book?
I did, but I think given that we've read a lot of books in this genre of walking after a life, to change one's life or a life-changing experience, I think I found it a little bit harder to like her as a character, I guess, in the book. Mm-hmm. Like compared to some of the other books where we've read and they've gone on a long walk, I really had a lot more empathy for the writer, whereas with her, because I guess some of the things were her own fault, but some of them weren't, and I guess the whole time during the trail you just kept thinking, is she going to make another bad choice or not? And that seems to be where the book probably got on my negative side a little bit. But it's a good book. It's worth reading and make your own mind up on it. But yeah, that was my kind of
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I enjoyed it and it was well written, and I kept reading to the end. Not just because I knew I was going to be talking about it, but yes, unwittingly, just can I admit to poor planning, we have read quite a few books about people going on long walks, and very long walks. And I mean, it was fine for the going on a long walk genre, but I did like the others better. So if I think back to Laura Waters' Bewildered, then I much preferred that than
or the salt path.
And the salt path, exactly. Like that is I think that will forever remain my all-time favorite going on a walk book, I think. But I did enjoy it. I just wish I'd read it first out of all these other books, and then I probably would have enjoyed it more. But what I did like was the flashback to all of her previous life history before that. All of those flashbacks throughout, I thought worked really well in the book, and gave us lots of interesting background.
I think there was a lot at the beginning of the book too, because it kind of followed a story, so you kind of knew about her mum and that, and then there was extra details added as the book went on. So that seemed a bit more appropriate to what she was thinking at the time. So and certainly there's a chapter very near the end of the book, and she lists, I think it was like 5 or 6 things where she hated her mother for, but then she said she loved her mother. I can't remember them all, but it was just like, I hated her for dying and hated her for being annoying, but then realised that she still was very much grieving loss and how much she did love her mother. And
it's interesting, and I think I've got it later in my notes, but the idea that I think a lot of people go on a long walk to sort out something, judging by some of the books we've read in the genre, and
seems to be very popular.
It does. I know. I mean, I'm thinking we should go on a long walk and write a book, but but it's funny that it seems to also be a recurring thing that sometimes the physicality and the all of the thinking required to be doing a long walk actually precludes the thinking about the emotional stuff or the the issues and stuff, because you're actually spending a lot of the time kind of in, for want of a better phrase, survival mode. So I found that quite interesting.
It is. I find it interesting because when you're by yourself, that's when your mind can wander to all these bad things that are happening in your life. So when you go hiking, it's like you kind of would think that would be it, but there's probably enough distractions there with your feet being sore or your back sore or the beautiful
you get lost,
scenery
or you're
stuff.
worried you get lost, or
get lost. So yeah, I think in that sense it doesn't allow your mind to wander to what you're escaping or grieving or something like that. So
not as much as I would expect. So I found that intriguing.
No,
but yeah. Now, okay, I have a question for you. This book was super successful, right? It was a #1 on lots of lists, a bestseller. Oprah restarted her book club to feature this book.
Yeah.
And it was made into a huge movie. So what are your thoughts? Why do you think this book was so successful?
Yeah, that's a good question. Was it I can only assume part of this is it's obviously a story of an American in America. So once that story gets latched onto, the opportunities within the USA to have that movie and get that your name in the spotlight. But I'm not really sure why that happened. It was, I guess, once. And it happened, and she did this walk quite a while ago too. So I'm not sure when the book was originally published, but
I think
book was pre
she walked in
internet, really.
Yeah, she walked in 1995, and I think the book wasn't published until 2012, like a lot later.
So it was probably published when the internet was just kind of like it'd been around, but I think that's when all social media started to take off. 10 odd years ago as well. So I can see how the story would be compelling and people would be like going, what? Why the hell are you doing that? But there would have been a lot of other actual single women perhaps who had hiked that trail before as well. So, it's a hard one to know. But I can see why they made a movie of it because there was a lot of stuff in it that movie producers like. And, and as a character, she fits that kind of, young girl from the country kind of mold that they like to portray in movies and things like that. So
and like
once it's made a movie,
difficult upbringing made good kind of thing.
So maybe it's the whole redemption aspect of it all. It's a tough. I think it's just like I can understand why something like The Salt Path might not take off in America because it's very English and that doesn't tend to work. Or like, walking through New Zealand probably wouldn't take off in America. But if it had been done by an American doing it, perhaps then that might have been where that opportunity would have come from.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my theory.
We should tell Laura to pretend she's American and then Bewildered might make it big.
Or just give Oprah a call.
Or give Oprah a call, exactly. So, yes. So, I have nothing further to add, to be honest. It's a good book, but I don't consider it a massively great book. So perhaps just the lack of what it was at the time and the right, I don't know. Well, catching the attention of people like Oprah, and then once you've got that, I suppose that, everyone trusts her, so off you go. But then big success follows. So before I move on to the walking tips.
No, but I was just going to say, I guess if you hadn't come across our whole genre of long walks because life has turned on you or something's not gone quite right, if you're not aware that that's a whole genre of travel books, and the first one you come across might be the best one. I mean, and I guess Bill Bryson kind of did a long walk and through the Appalachian Trail on the other side, but I guess he didn't have that. He was a travel writer, so he didn't have that backstory to sell
and
it.
He was a bloke rather than a single woman.
Or they did still make a movie of it many years later. So
yes, I tried to watch that movie and I couldn't get really into it. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have, and I think I got scenes from it mixed up with scenes from Wild in my head. And when I started watching Wild, and I'm like, oh, maybe I was looking for a scene escaping out the motel window or something like that, and then I'm thinking, oh, maybe that's another movie I'm thinking of, and then I worked out where it was from. So.
Yes, I think you're right, but I could see how they could get muddled. So, and they were from about the same era as well. So, yeah. Justin, can you share that favourite quote of yours, the universe one?
Oh, yes. This is the one I like, and I think this is probably my favourite bit in the whole book, actually. So, the universe, I'd learned, was never ever kidding. It would take whatever it wanted and never ever give it back. I really did only have one boot. And it was just, and that's, it was just the bit at the end. It was like, I really did only have one boot. But yeah, she had quite a lot of bad luck on that whole thing. She, not necessarily, I think sometimes she might have just been so tired, she just didn't think of the possibility of these things happening. But I know in the book she lost a T-shirt, which was given to her by one of the other hikers, and she absolutely loved it, and then left it drying at a campsite and didn't go back to get it. And then I think she lost a bracelet or something. I'm trying to think of.
I can't remember.
There was something else.
Like
and then the boots as well. And then there was even just stuff like just hoping to get a break at the at a campground and spend the night, and she was told to move on because she didn't have any money. So yeah, so she had some bad luck, but I think she had a lot of good luck.
She did, considering she wasn't. Yeah, and she wasn't very well prepared. Let's face it. So,
no.
Like if I think of Laura, who had every section planned, and she knew what was ahead and all of that, and it's still hard work. But Cheryl Strayed had just kind of arrived with all her baggage. Well, in fact, let's move on to our hiking tips, what we've learnt from Wild.
Oh, God, yes.
Which is a lot. I mean, maybe you and I knew some of this already, let's face it. But
yeah, well, yeah, I think the first one, just like packing her bag so full of stuff. And the book didn't really go into a lot of details on what she had overpacked with. There was a few things, like I think she had a saw or something, or the ice pick, and a few other things like that, but nothing in terms of the size and weight. So it had me wondering what she had that was really heavy. I mean, she had books, which, she started to burn. That upset me.
The burning of the books was very difficult for me too. I understood it as a practicality, but it was not painful.
Yeah. So I can imagine you've got to take your cooking stuff, your sleeping and tent, and clothes, but she only had one pair of clothes the whole time. So this is what I'm trying to work out. She had a water pump and everything like that, and she obviously had to carry food in it. But what was in her bag? It's like a mystery that I don't think actually has been solved. So
yeah, no, I still don't quite understand.
Overpack your bag. That would be my tip.
No, and she hadn't even packed it.
You've got to carry it.
Like she rocked up at the motel with shopping bag fulls of stuff. Bags full of stuff, plus what she already had in the backpack, which was, as she termed it, monster, or someone else did. But I mean, to be fair, I remember when I first moved to Japan, and I did take things that were stupid in retrospect, but at least I was going to live in an apartment. I wasn't going to walk 1,000 miles across Japan. So I forgive myself for that, and it was the first time. And then after that, I became much more sensible, much more quickly. And these days, I travel with a backpack generally, but it'll often be only 10 or 12 kilos in total, and sometimes that will include stuff for my son as well. I mean, I don't know. I just don't want to carry stuff around, so I make sure there's not much to carry.
Yeah, I think everyone's had. Well, I assume everyone's had one of those luggage stories where they suddenly realised that maybe they were packed too much. Like, I returned from my first trip to Europe. I left with 25 kilos and I was returning with 52 kilos. I'd just gone crazy buying. And I had no idea how much that was going to cost me money. I had no idea if the airline were going to charge me money for excess baggage. It cost me something like $500 or $600 just to get my bags home.
What kind of stuff had you been buying?
I bought 8 pocket knives. So I was nice to people as a gift. My mines, which were big, heavy 1 liter ceramic ones, and
fair enough.
That's just to name a few of the heavier items. Yeah, I just bought stuff everywhere I went. First time in Europe, I'm like,
oh, don't worry, been there, done that too.
Well, you learn the hard way. I learned the hard way. Never happened again.
No, yeah, absolutely right. I came home from Germany as a 14-year-old with I don't know how many kilograms of Milka chocolate packed into my suitcase. So because it wasn't available here at the time, And chocolate's actually quite heavy when it stacks up. Yeah. So, but I didn't have to carry it too far, so that was good. Now, what else did we learn about some hiking tips?
Oh, boots as well. Make sure your boots fit first. I think I knew this one already, but and I probably knew the pack. But yeah, you generally get told if you go into a hiking shop, in Australia they ask you, where are you planning to walk, or when are you planning to walk? And one of the first things they'll actually tell you to do is to wear them and get used to them, because if they don't fit, to bring them back.
Yes.
Or at least I think a lot of them. And it looks like the store that was popular, I don't even know if it still exists, the REI in the USA.
I think it still exists. Yeah.
They did a full boot replacement, and she didn't even have to send the other ones back because they're down the side of a mountain face. So
pretty awesome.
So I think, but that goes hand in hand with the 2 socks from one of our previous books.
Yes, I have noted that for my future walking.
Yeah,
definitely. Yes.
So make sure your boots fit, 2 socks, carry a light pack.
She had the
make
camera.
Sure you know where you walk. The camera buried in the bottom of the bag. If it's in the bottom of the bag, you're never going to use it. So why are you carrying it?
Yep, exactly. Although these days, I think you probably use it, for that sort of situation, you'd often use your phone.
And
so
stuff.
That's a bit easier. Thank goodness.
Yes. So I got a bag that has a little pocket on the side for my camera to go in. So, I've planned ahead with that one. But
that's very clever.
Yes. Tip for anyone out there.
Yep.
And I think the water was another one. Like right at the end, she just kind of assumed should have water. So and then she just ran out. And I don't know how much water she was carrying and stuff like that, but I think she was at least prepared for that. She had the pump to siphon off and pump the water in it. So I think that one she was kind of prepared for. But I think, was it right near the end of the book, she literally thought there was a water tank. I'll just gulp all my water down. Then got to the water tank. There's no water in it. I just wasted all my water.
Yep. Yep. And that's, I just feel awful to think of that. There's nothing worse than nothing worse than being very, very thirsty.
She would have at the time. Yeah.
Horrible, horrible feeling. That's one of my fears.
Yeah. No water.
No water. I cannot cope. So yeah. So no, that's not good at all.
It is essential. It is an essential part of living.
It isn't just, especially when you're out hiking in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
Unlikely to see people for a while. So it was a very it seemed to be a very lonesome hike, with people being really quite few and far between, which I don't think I would like.
No, if you compare that to the hike Laura did with her, I think in the book she definitely did meet a few people, but it seemed to be that right off, and that only sort of meet up in a camp and stuff like that. And the movie kind of crossed people, and they kind of brushed over a lot of those things in the movie, and that was probably, whereas in the book they did form a lot of her internal monologue, I guess, as she was walking about, what was Doug up to, or what was.
Yeah. That's a good segue, Justin, because I want to move to talking about the movie versus the book, and that's certainly one thing I felt was missing was a lot of the people that she'd met along the way. There was a couple of them there, but nowhere near the detail and the depth, because I quite liked some of those friendships that she developed and the things that she learnt from other people. And I understand in a movie you just can't have all that detail, so a lot of things got cut. But I missed those people, and I felt like there was a lot of just watching her hike. Yeah,
I guess they had to do it like that. I think that there didn't seem to be that much that she wrote about that happened on the trail, and everything that did happen on the trail kind of made it into the movie. So I think it was a campsite seemed to be where a lot of the stuff happened, and so most of those were in the movie. But then I don't know, it just kind of, because it started literally on the hike, and there was no backstory, and it took a while to work out what had happened. I don't think her mother died in the movie till
much later, wasn't it?
3/4 of the way through in the actual movie.
You're right.
So it was quite late, and even then there was still a lot of flashbacks with her appearing. So I didn't dislike the movie, but I think the book was definitely, a much better. The detail in the book and the way it was ordered was a bit more interesting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I didn't dislike the movie, but I wouldn't rush off to watch it again. And I did definitely enjoy the book more. It's pretty much 99% of the time I would say that about a book versus movie anyway, because I really am a book fan, and the detail that you can get into a book is so much more.
And sometimes, and I was quite surprised by, they didn't really have a lot of scenery wide shots in the movie either. Which
it could have been more,
because it reminds me of a movie I watched a few years ago, and I can't remember whether it was a French or Spanish or what language it was in, but it was set in Georgia, and they were hiking in the mountains in Georgia, but there was very little actually going on in the whole movie. There was just like a real twist, a couple of little things, a real twist at the end, but it was just full of gorgeous shots of Georgia. And then next thing you know, a couple of years later, I'm off to Georgia.
Yeah.
So I think it was called The Loneliest Planet or something like that, if anyone's
I want to watch that,
interested in... yeah, I'm not going to say it was a cinematic masterpiece. It might be for some people, but
the scenery was good.
Yeah, there was this. Yeah, whereas this movie just didn't have. You expected to see these wide vistas, and it didn't really have them. It didn't really have just standing at the top of the mountain.
No. It sort of started off that way, and at first I was kind of surprised because within the book there's not that much description of the landscape, which I kind of missed because I really love to get that setting. So I didn't have a good mental picture of it. And so when the movie started, I was like, oh, wow, that's what it looks like. But then there wasn't really a whole lot more of it. And I thought, surely that could have been done better because I imagine that, there's a lot of variety of landscapes up that trail that could have been really, really beautiful. So I missed that.
Yeah, but I think she didn't really describe a lot of that either. I mean, she was often at the top of a mountain or something like that. And even where occasionally she'd describe like crossing the ice field or snow field, or there'd be sheer drops off the pathways and things like that. But that was probably as descriptive as it got. Occasionally, like she'd be walking through the desert. It was more to do with the environment and the lands, not so much the landscape, but like she was crossing arid desert or forests, but there was very little describing of what, other than just saying that's where she was. So I think
I missed that because
so I think that's
something I love.
Where that book differed from some of the other ones we've read.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, some of the others we've got a much bigger mental picture of what it was all.
Yeah,
the scenery was like, and and the other part was, of course, by necessity, quite a few bits missing. The storyline with her stepfather was completely erased and stuff like that. So, it's often the case. I get it. You can't fit everything in. So there was just book was just more. And
even
intriguing.
I don't even think they mentioned her friend who did the drop off, the drop boxes and that, who was posting those out.
She kind of got. I think it was Amy, and she was met up with her, or maybe there was a couple of flashbacks with her, but it certainly wasn't. Yeah. No. Oh, and when she met up with them at the end, that all kind of got passed over or didn't exist in the movie. You're quite right. Yeah. There's
and even the time she spent with the guy in the town that she met at the music thing that she went to, that was very brief. But in the book, it was a long chapter. And she was there for a few days, and that just kind of flashed over as just another person she'd met.
Yes.
But in the book, it seemed to be that
relationships,
person.
And that was what I missed because they were really interesting in the book. I read today that Nick Hornby, who's one of my favourite writers, actually wrote the screenplay. So
yes, I saw that in the credits, and he's on the back of the book. This version of the book too. He's got a comment on the back. I did see it in the comments, and I thought, yes, I know Nick Hornby. I can't remember what he's written, but I have read some stuff.
He wrote, I can't remember what it's called. It was made into a movie. I'll mess it up. How to Be a Boy or something. Can't remember. I'm so bad with movie titles, so let's just skip it. But anyway, he's a good writer, and I've got several of his books. But anyway. So in summary, I'm happy I read it because it was very famous, and now I have read it and watched the movie, and I can tick that off.
Well, and I was glad I read the book, because even though I had seen the movie and I thought I remembered stuff in the movie, I clearly hadn't. So, and I did watch the movie on a plane flight, so I think maybe
you get interrupted on a plane flight.
You're not as So I'm glad I read the book, watched the movie again. It's not the worst movie adaptation of a book ever, so that was also good. But
I thought the scenes that they included, they included quite faithfully, I must say. So I just there was lots. There
was only the minor things we picked on that were not.
On the whole,
what they actually picked on, there was a lot of similar, even down to I think the very first encounter with the guy in the truck with his licorice, his raspberry, strawberry licorice or whatever.
Yes.
That was in the movie, and that whole thing was quite faithful.
Yes.
And then I was trying to remember, I'd read the book only like a few weeks, I read that part
beforehand,
like less than a month earlier, and I'm like going, I can't remember what happens here.
I forgot about it when Dylan Licorice came out. Yeah, exactly. It's funny, isn't it? But then I remember, yes, that's right. He's actually quite harmless. So, yeah. All right. Well, there we go. It's a lukewarm thumbs up.
Lukewarm thumbs up? Yeah.
Definitely not a thumbs down.
Look, I think most people enjoy it. It's
Yeah. I'm curious to hear what other people think. So we'll have to catch up on some people's comments later. So that was Cheryl Strode's Wild. And next book is this one, which I'm really excited about. Couch Surfing in Iran.
I've got the same version.
Yes, it's a good thing our page numbers will match up when we're.
I am very much looking forward to this one.
Me too. I cannot wait. So Iran is. You haven't been to Iran, have you, Justin?
No, and I've long been fascinated by Iran.
Me too.
And I know the main reason I've never been to Iran is because of the rule around you can't get your US visa waiver, or the ESTA, or whatever they call it, if you've been to Iran. So
that's right.
And just not being able to go through the USA for other places would be quite annoying. Like if you want to go to Canada, you'd have to get a direct flight.
Yes, or even Central America. Anyway, it's sort of mostly weird flights.
Yeah, Central America.
So it does actually
the Caribbean, those.
Yeah, it cuts off.
It does narrow down the choices. So
that's right.
You only have to read about the headaches of getting a US visa in Australia as well. So I have not gone for that very reason at the moment.
Yes, I understand.
I've heard so many good stories about it. So.
Me too.
And hopefully the rules will change one day.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, I actually a couple of years ago made an entire episode about stories of people going to Iran, which is very rare for me to do an episode about a destination, and I didn't plan to, but people just kept telling me these amazing stories. So I said, right, okay, we have to have an episode about Iran.
I think you had some by female travellers who also commented, like, going as a female traveller on a female-only kind of tour meant they had that interaction with the local women that you wouldn't get otherwise as well. So be interesting to see what his interactions will be.
Yes, and we were just chatting before our book club started, weren't we, Justin? That he's actually written a series of these books set in different places.
Yeah.
So I have a fear that I'll really like this, and then I'm going to have to read the lot. So that's going to keep me busy. But it's a good problem to have, so it's all right. I just noticed on the top of it says the surprise international bestseller. So there you go. I like that. That sounds extra intriguing. So I'm trying not to start it straight away because then I won't remember the details close to our next book club, but I'll see how we go. So, but anyway, it's not a walking to solve a problem book, and we have a few books lined up which are not walking to solve problems. So we're switching genres for a while at least. So.
Which we didn't know was a genre until
we discovered it. Yes. So yes, but it's quite a lucrative one. I think I'm feeling like I need to go walking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it was last book club we talked about wine hiking. So I am still planning a wine hike, but I'm not quite sure there's a book in it. So, although you never know. Anyway, thank you, Justin.
No worries.
Been lovely to chat as always.
Thanks again, Amanda.
No worries. And I will see you next time for Couch Surfing in Iran. And thank you, everyone who's watched, for sharing Wild with us. This has been another episode of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Show notes and other information are at notaballerina.com/podcast. Join me again soon for another chat about why we travel. Bye for now.